Hello again, and welcome back to another adventure in book hunting. And this one truly was a new adventure for me. Um, Last week, I participated and successfully bid in my first estate auction for a lot of books, capital L lot. Um, I actually put in bids on two different assortments of books. Was the only bidder on a wide variety of general books, and I lost the other bid for a lot of books that basically were made up by a home improvement encyclopedia. And I bid on that one because I had a friend in mind who I thought would have appreciated getting that. Unfortunately, I only won the one lot, and in my hubris, um, uh, yesterday, I tried to make a video where I unboxed all of the books I collected in that as a result of that winning bid. And if you look at the thumbnail for this video, that's what it looked like when I collected it last Friday morning. Uh, they were still on the shelves. I scooped them into those boxes and brought them home, and actually went through them for the first time on camera yesterday afternoon. Um, and that video ran to almost an hour, and I thought, no one wants to see me going through around 160 books, most of them pretty crappy, and sorting them into keep, um, send along, or yeah, do a little more research, follow up, and decide where I'm going to do with them. But that's what that video was. And so, if you're really interested in that blow by blow, I'm going to attempt to link that video in the description below. I'm going to keep that video private, but if anyone really wants to suffer the pain of seeing me go through several boxes of books in poor daylight, then by all means, click and follow through. In any event, I've taken um, what I thought were the most interesting books out of that unboxing. Have them kind of around me right now. Thought I'd go through them and show you what I got in this estate sale. Uh, this estate sale, just quick bit of background before we get into it. This estate sale was online only. The minimum bid for the lot of books was $2. I bid more than that. I think I wound up deciding to bid $10. And the way these kinds of auctions generally work, um, that means that your bid will be up to $10. But if nobody comes in behind you and bids after you, then you're going to get the books for the minimum, which in this case was $2. And as I said earlier, around 160-ish books and books, pamphlets, some magazines, so forth. But I got those for $2 plus a buyer's premium, which is not uncommon for many auctions, particularly online auctions, of 15%. So, grand total for uh, all those boxes and those books in the thumbnail, $2.30. Now, out of those 160-ish books, and I only counted them last night, I was thinking it would be closer to 200, but I overestimated. But out of those 160-ish books, I pulled out 30 odd books that I thought were worth me keeping or giving to someone else who I thought would be interested in them, or sending them along to the Hatter. And there's a surprising number of these books that I will be keeping, but we'll talk about that as we go. First, uh, as I said, this was an estate sale, and from the other items forbidden that sale, as well as the collection itself, you learn a lot about a person by their books. I think it goes without saying. Um, Fellow whose estate it was had been a career Air Force, um, United States Air Force airman. Um, and from his book collection, I'm inferring that he probably served at least some time in Germany, which isn't uncommon. We have several air bases in Germany. And I suspect that he's somewhat right leaning politically. There were a number of political books in the collection. Glenn Beck, um, Tucker Carlson, um, political commentary of that stripe. And out of those political books, I pushed most of those aside. I'm not interested, and I don't know anybody who really is. But I did keep one. It kind of tickled me, and I'll tell you about that when I get to it. But first, the guy also had a lot of local history, and I'm going to get that pile now. I pulled out these books that cover local historical and literary topics. The first is a very nice copy of Fall the River by James Tom. And I call this local because it's set um, in a local area, and it's based on the true story of Mary Ingalls Draper, who was captured by Indians and then eventually escaped and got back home following the river. And this copy is in really nice shape. I have a copy, so this one will be going on to the Hatter, but it's a good read, and it's very popular, especially locally, but it sold fairly well just as a kind of colonial Western story. James Tom wrote some other stories that I don't have, but he's a fairly decent writer. Okay, and then we're on to straight history. This one's an interesting local note, fairly local. Courthouse tragedy of Hillsville, Virginia. It described a shootout at the Carroll County Courthouse in Hillsville, well over 100 years ago. Several family members of a guy who was on trial liberated him. In the process, killed several courthouse staff and several other individuals, bystanders. And the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency was tasked with bringing those family members to justice, and some of their pictures on the front cover. I've told this story before, I think even on video. I think in a book about the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency. Think modern day Pinkertons, except maybe worse. And that's the Baldwin Felts. I committed a social faux pas. In a casual conversation, I referred to the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency as a gang of thugs in a dinner party in Hillsville, Virginia, and immediately realized my faux pas. Hillsville, Virginia is the only place on the planet where the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency are considered heroes. And it's because of their actions in bringing these guys to justice. And I forgot where I was. Oh, let's see. This is a book I've seen before, but I'm going to keep. Oh, and the Hillsville Massacre book I'm keeping as well. This is early coal mining in Pocahontas, Virginia. I'm not very far away from Pocahontas, Virginia, and this is the start of coal mining as an industry in southern West Virginia. And like I say, it's local history about this community and the early pioneering days of coal mining in the 1870s, 80s, 90s. Good shape. Like I say, local publishing, local publishing. But had my eye out for this one for a while, and I'm glad I now have it. This next one is looks like a narrative history of Tazewell County, Virginia, which is one county over. If I was outside like I was for the original 1 hour video, if you look at the ridge behind me, that's the border with Tazewell County, Virginia. And see, this is just a kind of like I say, cultural and historical interpretation of Tazewell County as a community. I'm sure, I don't know if I'll keep it forever, but I am going to keep it long enough to try and read through it and and see what it's about. All right. My last video, when I found out to my uh, good surprise that my local junk store was selling books, real books. I had an Arcadia book from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Well, in this guy's collection, he had 4 Arcadia books, including one with a cover scheme I've never seen before. In fact, let's get those 2 books together. These are both Arcadia books. This is part of the, of course, Images of America series, and this is Giles County There and Now. It's also by Arcadia Publishing. I've never seen this style of book by them before. Um, anyway, these two I'm sure I'm going to read through, uh, kind of enjoy, and I don't know if I'll keep one or either or both, but if I don't, they'll be heading to the Hatter. Giles County is the county to the east of Tazewell County, so it's local, and so there's maybe some walk-in interest at the Hatter Bookshop. Like I say, if I don't keep them, that's where they're headed. The next one is about Bluefield, West Virginia, which is the town just a little more than a mile from where I am right now. Um, and it's written by um, um, Bill Archer, William Bill Archer, who's one of our county commissioners. Anyway, that one's going to go straight to the Hatter. Like, I'm in Boston for a second. To the Hatter. Local historical stuff. These are fairly popular locally. And like all Images of Arcadia books, that's where you sell most of them. People who are either from the area or live in the area. This one is in the same boat. I've not really had a chance to read through this one. It's also fairly local, with the county to the south of Tazewell County in Virginia. And I'm going to read through this one and probably wind up donating this one to the Hatter. Okay. And we had a couple of books on Giles County. And these next two books are about a place in Giles County. Now, these books are both about Mountain Lake, which is a resort in Giles County, Virginia, just, I guess, east of the county seat in Parisburg. Both of these claim to be first editions, but obviously the color scheme's quite a bit different. I already have one for myself, and it covers more of this color. But in any event, it's a pretty interesting history of that local hotel and resort. And for those of you who might not know and are fans of a certain movie, it was one of two locations where a fairly famous film from the 80s was shot. Here's a still from that film. That's Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey in a little film called Dirty Dancing, which was shot on location at Mountain Lake. About half or so, and the other half was shot at Lake Lure, North Carolina. No, it's kind of a big deal locally. And advertised correctly, Dirty Dancing fans are going to want that. Right. This one I was overjoyed to find. Civil War, the New River Valley, 1861 to 1865. 3 one-day driving tours by David Bard. And David Bard should have claimed Dr. David Bard. He was professor of history at Concord College and then Concord University for many decades. One of my favorite professors when I was there. And he did this book of driving tours, on the area, of battlefields in the southern half of the state. Civil War battlefields in the southern half of the state. There aren't many battlefields from any other war in southern West Virginia. But, like I say, beautiful book. So glad to have it. Dr. Bard, unfortunately, passed away just a few years ago. This one, absolutely, I'm going to keep and treasure forever and read through. I actually took Civil War as an upper level history class from Dr. Bard. He knew his stuff. Was overjoyed to get that book. This next book's also very much of local interest, and it's absolutely beautiful. This is Bramwell's Golden Years, the Homes and History of Bramwell, West Virginia, which is a community not far from here, about halfway between here and Pocahontas, that I talked about a few minutes ago. And this is a absolutely beautiful book. I've seen tour books about Bramwell before. It has all these beautiful historical mansions, churches, structures. Okay, just a beautiful little community tucked away in a river valley in the mountains. And it was quite famous in the early development of, once again, of the coal industry. 130 years ago or so. the there was a high school there up until actually not long after I graduated high school, and their mascot was the Millionaire, the Bramwell Millionaires, and that was because this community had more millionaires per capita than any other community in the United States. Something like 17 millionaires, and in a little village with only a few hundred people. A lot of wealth concentrated here, as you can see. Uh, that is not the Cooper House. I don't. Well, maybe it is. I should know this better. I think that may be the Cooper House, but but there are a couple of dozen beautiful homes just like this in Brownell, legacy of those days. Keeping that one at least for a good while. All right, where to go next? Um, said you can learn a lot about a person's books, about a lot about them by looking at their books. And as I said, poor fellow who passed away was a Air Force veteran, and I could tell from this that he probably served quite a bit of time in Germany. Um, he had some German novels. I took a year of German in college, and I'm gonna have to. I'm only gonna keep these long enough to kind of get a feel for what they are. Like I say, a couple of novels, um, and just my college German. Pardon me. That means some kind of wind over something. Anyway, obviously a novel. Uh, and I like make out on the title on this one: "A Man for Every Whatever that is." A man for every something. Anyway, looks interesting. It has a photograph as opposed to color illustration, so I'm wondering if this was adapted as a play or a film. In any event, don't know, but I will investigate. There were a couple of books about a little village in Bavaria, Oxenfurt. Okay, all in German. This one's Oxenfurt im 19. Jahrhundert, which would be like in 1900. And then another little book, mostly of photos of Oxenfurt, which is a town in the region of Würzburg. A little book about Würzburg. And then there was also in here a book about the Alps and about the legacy of Ludwig II. I believe that's I forget the name of the castle, but that's a very famous castle. Anyway, just leafing through this book, it's full of pictures, and this one's on one of the ones that's in English, which is good. Because I could do the German, but I'd be suffering through it. In any event, beautiful books. Don't know really what to do with them. Originally, in the hour-long video, those were in the category of investigate and then decide what I'm going to do with them. All right, let's not a whole lot more, but let's speed up. Yeah, there was another big category of stuff he had. Okay, he had a bunch of books about Cherokee Indians. These two have the same famous painting of the Trail of Tears. This book came out in the 80s. I've had it before. This is my chance to have it again. A really good history of the Cherokee Indians, um, leading up to the forced removal of the Cherokee and other so-called civilized tribes. And they're not so-called because they weren't civilized, but those were the tribes that the European settlers deemed might be salvageable, I guess for lack of a better term. Anyway, this tells the tragic story of their forced relocation from Georgia and the Carolinas, for the most part, to reservations in what's now Oklahoma. Like I say, and here's a children's book basically telling the same story. Um, Probably can give up the children's book. This one, like I say, I'm going to keep. And it had a nice American Indian style bookmark in it. It's nice. All right. This one I've not had a chance to look at yet. Torchlights to the Cherokee. And oh, it had brochures about Indian art, some other things like that. Booklet, mostly booklet of historical book, Cherokee heritage, and it had these oversized postcards in it. all on Cherokee themes. Cherokee Great Seal, the Soliloquy, and and a diagram of the Cherokee clans. Keeping those at least for a good while, maybe forever, who knows? And of course, the Soliloquy is famous because an Indian whose Indian name was Sequoia, English name, I believe, John Rist or George Rist. He invented a written language for the Cherokee peoples. And it is, as I said before, a soliloquy, which means there's a sound for every syllable in the language. So instead of having an alphabet where a letter has a sound, consonant, or vowel, the Cherokee language has a written language based on the sound of a full syllable. Anyway, guy was a genius. Came up with it on his own. Let's see. And then another kind of middle grade storybook about Cherokee Indians. Probably won't keep this. If the Hatter's interested, it'll be theirs. Oh, and this last one, I definitely am going to keep, at least for a good long while. Myths of the Cherokee by Dover Press. Was once again, this is one of the ones I was really thrilled to get. The Rise and Fall of the Cherokee Nation, I was thrilled with, and this one maybe even more so. Gonna enjoy going through this one. All right, where to next? Let's do the historical stuff. Let's see. All right. Got one, and just again, a little more background. When I first decided to review this auction and to bid on it, it's an online auction. You had an opportunity to come and look at things in person, but it was at a time where I couldn't get away and do it. The auction was up for at least 2 or 3 weeks, but this was one of the books that I saw in a picture. Basically, there were 2 shelves of books filled with books, and this was one of the books, sideways, that I could identify. And it was one of the reasons I did. Uh, the last volume in Richard Evans's trilogy about the Third Reich. First one, I think, is The Coming of the Third Reich. And then, of course, he had the Third Reich at War, which is the last volume in the trilogy. And by coincidence, I got the middle book right there, The Third Reich in Power, which is from Hitler's takeover in the early 30s to 1939, the invasion of Poland. Anyway, over the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 2 books out of the 3. I don't know that I want to keep them. I've already got enough World War II material myself. These are highly acclaimed books, and I believe that the Hatter will like to get them. In fact, I have a customer of theirs in mind for those. I think they won't last long. The other historical books. There's a little single volume trade back history of the Vietnam War. America's Longest War, the United States and Vietnam, 1950 to 1975. I have a single volume history of the Vietnam conflict, and I'll probably trade it out and keep this one. This one's a little more extensive. And I think I know the author, George Herring. He's familiar to me for some reason. In any event, I don't know where that one's going. A Civil War list book. This was one of the books, again, that I could identify sitting on the shelf. And I thought this would be a good donate for the Hatter. People like list books. Civil War, World War II, the American Revolution, book of lists. For instance, open a page at random. Okay, yeah. The ethnic compositions of the armies. So what ethnicities made up the Confederacy? What ethnicities, by and large, made up the Union? Lists of foreign-born regiments in the Confederacy, so on and so forth. Anyways, Civil War buffs like these kind of books. I had one myself. I used to go to every now and then. Oh, I donated it quite a while ago. This one's nicer than the one I had. All right. This was one of the books I could see on the shelf when I was making the decision on whether or not to even bid in the first place. Damage Them All You Can, Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia by George Walsh. Don't know the author, of course know the subject matter. I've got plenty of stuff on the American Civil War. I'm going to offer it to the Hatter if they've got space for it and think they can sell it. And that's where it will go. Oh, and as I said, there were tons of books and other materials. One of them was a commemorative National Geographic issue from 2005, which would have been what the 140th anniversary of the end of the war. Is that something like that? My math is horrible. In any event, I'm going to keep it at least for a little while. And it had, if you're not familiar with National Geographic, very interesting magazine covering cultural and geographical issues worldwide. And the National Geographic Society's been around probably for 200 years. But each magazine has a map, and this one is Civil War related. Like that. You're always lucky if you find an old National Geographic and it's still got its map in it. This is one I'm going to take a look at. Don't know that I'll keep forever, but I'm certainly going to read through it. Um, a long, long time ago, I was subscribed to National Geographic. It's a good magazine. All right, let's go into some biography. Uh, the personal memoirs of Ulysses Grant, in a really nice edition. I've already got this, so this will be going straight to the Hatter. They've got a lot of good presidential biography stuff. This will be a good addition for them, I hope. I think I've already got one of these, and I think the Hatter does at least one copy. The autobiography of Chuck Yeager, a famous West Virginian, and famous for being the first man to break the sound barrier in flight. But anyway, there's Chuck. I think this looks like a book club edition. Yeah, this is a book club edition. Still, it's in reasonably good shape, and I bet they'll take it. All right, what else have we got? Okay, we are winding down. Isn't this so much better than watching me go on and on for an hour, mostly about worthless stuff? Okay, we're into kind of what I call the political stuff. Very nice copy of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and the Articles of Confederation in one volume. This guy, he had some like cheap pamphlet style copies of some of these documents. This is a nice little book. Once again, these are all public documents. You can get them for free, and you can get them in print for free. But this is a nice little edition, and I'm thinking maybe the Hatter would like to get it. So I'm going to offer it to them. See if they're interested. This very little attractive little book. The Ideas That Shaped a Nation. It has documents and writings from throughout American history. As I said before, this guy's collection had a lot of overtly right-wing oriented materials, books, etc., magazines. This one, however, is I think more for a general audience because you've got everybody in here. You've got John Winthrop, you've got Cotton Mather, Oliver Wendell Holmes, Patrick Henry, Wordsworth Longfellow, founding fathers. There are select Federalist papers in here. Daniel Webster, George Washington, Francis Key. Goodness, they've got the Battle Hymn of the Republic in here. Ooh, boo, hiss. They've got Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation and the Gettysburg Address. Just some foundational documents of American history. And into the modern era, they've got the first inaugural address of Ronald Reagan and Letter from the Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King. So, not a political list, I don't think. I think it's a pretty well curated list of documents overviewing American history in a very attractive little book. So that one I'm donating to the Hatter. The next one I already have. I have this in a Signet Classic, and this is a Bantam Classic of de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. One of the first, I guess you'd say, neutral, somewhat objective looks at what American culture was like after the Revolution, when things were starting to settle down in the early 19th century. It's a great work. It'll give you a lot of insight into what early America was like. This was first published in 1835. Anyway, to the Hatter. Okay, this is the one that tickled me. Remember, I was promising you right-wing political stuff. This is the only book I got out of that section of stuff that I intended to keep and distribute. And for the most part, it's the book when I'm saying keep, as opposed to do something else with. Out of the 160-ish books, maybe a third are going to go to the store. I'm going to keep, or I have individual folks in mind to get them to. All the rest I'm going to donate to libraries, little free libraries, those kind of things. But this one tickled me. Obviously, a Dr. Seuss satire, The New Democrat, and an interesting caricature of President Barack Obama, done up kind of like the Cat in the Hat. It even has the Dr. Seuss seal on it. But anyway, a children's book, autographed by the author. And actually, yeah, actually, these books are worth some money. Um, I'm going to read it and then donate it. So if you've got the sense of humor to take this, like I said, just looking at it, it's just good fun. Anyway, it's going to go to the Hatter. All right, and winding down. All right, only 4 more things. Some pop culture stuff. The guy apparently went to Graceland because this is the official guidebook to Graceland, updated and an expanded second edition. It's a nice looking book. French flaps, nice photos from Graceland. The king himself on the back. And Elvis is still part of the culture. I bet the Hatter can move this one. It's such a nice book and in really good condition. But anyway, that's going to be a donate. In fact, everything left is going to be a donate. Oh, this was interesting. Marilyn Monroe cover to cover, and it is a magazine with short. It's a book with magazine covers from throughout Marilyn Monroe's career. A multitude of different covers with, as you can see, little blurbs about each one. She's still, I think Marilyn Monroe still captures a lot of the popular imagination. This is an interesting book. Like I say, I think Marilyn Monroe collector would like to have this. And if you are one of those, it will be at the Hatter really soon. Right. Last 2 books were children's books. Found 2 children's books. One, let's save the best for last. Kind of a generic toddler's storybook about farms. Night Night Farm, bedtime storybook. And it's in those really thick cardboard pages that your toddler will have a hard time messing up. Anyway, cute little kid's book. Hatter would probably take it. And then finally, something. Okay, good. My pile of books will not collapse. And finally, the last book I want to show you, The Joy of a Peanuts Christmas, 50 Years of Holiday Comics. And of course, if you're in America, you've probably seen the Christmas special, where Charlie Brown learns the true meaning of Christmas, and Snoopy wins the contest for Christmas decorations. But this is actually a collection of strips over like 5 decades by Charles Schulz. Say by decade, 50s. Strips, comic strips that were in the newspapers back in that era. And that's really neat because you can see how the art style changed from the 50s to the 60s into the 70s. Where does this end? I believe. Oh yeah, Joe Cool into the 70s. But these are all supposed to be Christmas time comics from Peanuts. Anyway, nice dust jacket. Published by Hallmark. Got a nice dust jacket, but an equally nice naked hardcover too. And that is it. Anyway, the highlights. Oh, I've done this one in about half the time it took me to do the other ones, and obviously I went into a whole lot more detail with good books than I did because I was rushing through a bunch of books. Just imagine me trying to go through another 120 books. Well, that's what I managed to do. Uh, and once again, I will try and put the link to that video, so if you want to torture yourself, you can see me going through every book out of this estate sale. Like I said, this was my first estate sale experience. I think for $2.30. It was very successful. I found a lot of oh my goodness books. Oh, there are actually a couple books I forgot to tell you about. Ah, never mind. It is good enough. But there were a couple other books that I've already kind of put away that were like, oh my goodness, and they were surprises because I couldn't tell they were on the shelves. Um, well, one I didn't know was on the shelf, and one was one of the books that helped me decide I want to bid. But in any event, it's a good time, and I for most of this year I've kind of had my eyes peeled for good estate sale opportunities, and this was the first one I had where I thought it was worth taking a stab at, and I was successful. So in any event, it was a good week to book hunt, broaden my horizons, and as I always say, you guys keep safe. Um, uh, oh, should I say it? Yeah, I'll say it because I say it in the big video. If you see anything in the big video, and you can get to me in time, something that you really, really, really would like to have before I donate it someplace else, leave me a comment on that video or this video, and we can maybe work out something where you pay for shipping and I get it to you. Because with a couple of exceptions, a handful of exceptions that I didn't show you today, everything else, it's 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 going to go someplace else, probably pretty quickly in any event. But anyway, keep safe, good book hunting, and I will talk to you again soon.